Good morning. We're talking about the top three things that allow professionals to see change as successful. I don't know about you, but we know that physicians, we're independent thinkers, and we come in through our training to, to avoid risk. So to engage physicians in a time when it's crucial for healthcare transformation for people and professionals to embrace change is very challenging. How do we do that? I'm going to be talking to you about that with an expert on this. My name is Dr. Elsie Coe. I'm the founder and CEO of Lead Physician Online Leadership Program. I'm also the Chief Medical Officer of American Endovascular. Go to our YouTube channel to watch any previous ones and be notified for any future ones by subscribing. We're going to be talking to Stephen Brass today, and let me introduce you to him. Stephen Brass, he is a double board certified physician executive and healthcare visionary, and he is an expert. He's got a passion for innovation across complex care systems, and he implements advanced care models. So anyone like this person who has to be energetic, has to be a change agent, needs to know how to allow change to happen. And what we are talking about, and we're going through in the next several weeks and even longer, is going through this book called The Chief Medical Officer's Essential Guidebook. And those of you who are interested in learning about, change management, this is his chapter. Okay. And leading change management. What is change management? Change is the law of life. And those who look only to the past or present are certain to miss the future. So how do we get that to happen? Let's bring him on board right now. Stephen, hold on one second. Let me just take this off here. But Stephen, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be here today.
Oh my God. So I learned a lot from people like you. Tell us a little bit about why this chapter was so important when you were asked to contribute.
So the reason why I felt this chapter and this topic is so relevant is, as a chief medical executive, as a physician leader, our main job is to be a change agent in the healthcare system. We are the pathway and the route between the medical staff and administration, and our job is to bring in positive change with the goal of improving quality, safety, reducing costs, improving the patient experience. And in order to do all those changes, you have to understand change management. That's at the heart of what we do.
You know what? I love that your book has so many different pearls in it. Let me just tell everyone a little bit what they would learn from grabbing this book and reading your chapter. You talk about physician engagement and buy-in. You bring up very essential things that we learn in master's classes that you can just pick up this book and learn yourself. What is Cotter's 8-step and change model? There's 2 different change management models that you go over. The ADKAR change model. If you're interested in learning about this, just pick up this book and learn about it. And also resistant to change. What are the 4 reasons why people are resistant to change, and what can you do about it? And even talk about the 10 commandments of physician change management. I haven't seen that before, so that's phenomenal. What can you say just a little bit about why you put all those things in there?
I think that I want to make sure that when I represent change management, I base it on the literature. I'm very scientific driven. So I did a lot of literature background reading to understand not only change management in general, what is the theory, but what applies to healthcare. So I saw that the Cotter's 8-step change model, the ADKAR change model, it has been successful in the healthcare industry. So those are 2 things I want to highlight in the chapter. And I thought it was very relevant to summarize it in specifics of the 10 commandments of change management for physicians, because there are specific things related to physicians that are different than other necessarily working with other people.
Absolutely. And they seem so, it seems so simple, but it's difficult to do. But I think if you review it over and over and you start putting little action points to those points, I think you'll be very successful in what you must be very successful in what you're doing and getting things to happen. And you've been promoted as a result. There's an article that talk about literature search. This is a very interesting article. You talk about at the end of your chapter, characteristics of successful changes in healthcare organizations, an interview with physicians, registered nurses, and assistant nurses. They did, what are the characteristics? Let's talk about that in this short podcast. What are the top 3 things that allow professionals to see change as successful and then you can be successful yourself out there if you're listening. What can you do to make people feel like this is going to happen?
Well, first of all, I want to say that it's really important that when we talk about change, there's the skill set of change of what we're going to do, the nuts and bolts of the change and the processes. But we have to remember that in order for change to be successful, there's the human side. So there's the human side plus the skill side in order to make a successful change. It's a recipe. And when I talk about the human side, I want to really emphasize, you have to say, why are we doing this? What's in it for me? How am I going to be impacted? What's in it for my patients? And really what motivates healthcare workers is if you could motivate and explain the why. That's really crucial. Is this aligned with our mission of our organization? Number two, is it going to make safety and quality improved? Three, is it going to make my operational job easier to do by following this? Will our patient flow improve? How is this going to impact? The why is often left out. Managers and leaders often focus on the skill set, the what. But the why, the human side, is crucial. That's the first big learning point, I think.
Right. And the first thing that you brought up is communication, obviously.
Yes.
This is the communication piece.
Right. You cannot over communicate. I have to emphasize that in multiple venues. Sending an email sending an email about a change is a faux pas. I think you need to have some face-to-face meetings now that COVID is over. I think you have to have multiple venues. Email is one way, but it has to be reinforced with personal meetings, touch points. The meetings have to be repeated multiple times. There's a marketing rule that says in order for a customer to sort of want to buy a product, they have to see the advertisement 7 times. And I actually believe that.
Yes.
That's been published. And that's the same thing with change management and the communication message. You have to repeat it multiple times in multiple different forums, and there has to be some personal connection. So
right, which is why you need to recruit, like you said in your book, on the chapter, key stakeholders who are then also going to be able to communicate it out. It's not just the CMO. It's all the medical directors. It's the assistant medical directors. It's the center managers.
Exactly. And one of the things I do want to emphasize, you need to be involved in getting the frontline employees who are involved, the frontline physicians and nurses. They are key. We know that. You have to defer to them. They are the expertise. They will be able to be either your advocates or your resistors.
Yes.
And getting those employees involved who are involved in that change at the front line is crucial to make this change management successful.
Right. And as you're doing that, let's go to number 2, is what you said is they felt like they had influence on change, because now you're getting people on board who believe in it and they feel like they're making other people also feel like they have influence.
Correct. So that is number 2, is extremely crucial. And when they say they felt they had influence on the change, I want to make sure that we emphasize that they should be informed about this early on in the process, number 1, to get buy-in. Oftentimes what hospital administration does, unfortunately, is they'll bring out a change and they'll tell the employees afterwards. You need to bring the employees in early on so that they have that input. And when I say had an influence on change, they have to be able to share their thoughts and ideas about barriers. So that way, essentially, you could use their input to even modify the change, to make the change even better by taking into account if there's barriers. So that's how they can influence change, by bringing up what's working and what isn't working. And that will help improve your change management by getting them involved in influencing the change.
Right. And then as things are starting, people are starting to take action, then they'll start to recognize that there's change, and they feel that, right? People are work by emotion, as we know. What do you think about this?
So they recognize the value of the change, and that is really crucial. So one of the things that I think that we need to, when we're doing change management, is to celebrate the small successes, to recognize sometimes the change management is not complete, but they're in the process. Celebrate them, celebrate the leaders, the frontline employees who are involved in the change early on, recognize them. We do kudos at our MEC for physicians who are involved in the change management, to recognize their great work that they're involved in. Thank you for being the lead on this project. Thank you for taking this on. Celebrate those small successes. It's really crucial. And that way they become role models. They become engaged in healthcare with the leadership of the hospital when they see the successes, and to celebrate and explain, how is this impacting our patients? what you have brought on has improved our patient care, has reduced infection rates, has reduced complications, and emphasize that. And that is really crucial for the change. That helps reinforce the change, and it reinforces that you're moving the organization forward in a positive fashion, ultimately.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. This is such great pearls. If you want to read more about change management and get these pearls without having to like dig through all the books that are out there, you could read like chapters and encyclopedias, if that still exists, on change management. Go to this book and you can buy it on this link here, bit.ly/CMO Guidebook. It's not just for chief medical officers, for any professionals, any physicians who want to be leaders, to learn these pearls that you don't have to learn in, necessarily get an MBA to learn.
Right.
There's also a customer service number that you can go to, 800-562-8088. And thank you so much for being on here. Everyone, just listen, that there are so many resources out there. There's so many physicians helping physicians, just like Dr. Brass. I thank you so much for doing this. How can people reach out to you if they're interested, Stephen?
So I'm available through LinkedIn. I also have a personal email address that I'm delighted to for people to reach out to me.
Great. Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody, for listening. My name is Dr. Elsie Ko. If you're interested in getting some kind of leadership training, go to www.leadphysician.org. And here is my email info at drelsieco.com. If you have a topic on that physicians need to learn on leadership, I would love to hear from you. Any last words as we close here, Stephen?
Yes. So I want to really encourage our physicians to get involved in leadership. I think it's really important that if you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem, number one. And number two is my favorite saying that I tell physicians: if you're not at the table, you're on the menu.
Wow.
And I think that's crucial. Physicians need to get involved in healthcare. If it's not just from a professional point of view, to help advocate for your patients. You need to be involved. You need to be at the table when change management is happening. I cannot overemphasize that point.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Until next time, see you Sunday.